One of the things I was going to discuss with you was how to handle languages, and not programming languages, but human crazy written languages. Right? Now, I'm a New Zealander, and so I come from a country where we have New Zealand English, so most of our English is standard ASCII format. About 3 months ago, our national internet-based news service called stuff.co.nz, because it's where you read about stuff. That's why we have a North Island and a South Island called North Island and South Island, because we're pretty plain when we name things. They added the macrons and the accents for the Maori language for the first time. So the first time, as of about 3 months ago, we now have actual accented letters on the website rather than just all being ASCII. Right? Now you guys have had to suffer through having weird non-ASCII characters your entire life because Norwegian had them, and you didn't really have a defined way of dealing with that when you first went online, and so you did all sorts of weird things like having your double A's and EAs and EOs and things to try and ASCIIize your language. So dealing with that once you're coding is a challenge, and I'm sure you've seen various errors generated by that. Yes, databases. It's often to do when you store things in a database and you get the encoding wrong and you get those diamonds with the question marks in them. Yep, you've seen all of those, and your username has an in it, and you go to Linux and suddenly you can't reference anything because you've got a stupid name with a stupid that doesn't work in the operating system.
One of my mates has the German U with dots on it in his username and League of Legends client, and it just breaks everything. You can't invite him, he doesn't really exist.
Yep, oops. Yeah, because unfortunately Americans like us New Zealanders didn't have any language that wasn't ASCII, so you just use ASCII, right? So I thought we could have a wee bit of discussion around what are the ways you deal with languages, what are kind of some of the professional approaches to that, and some of the strangeness that you see around dealing with this. Now, one of the interesting ones I thought of, which Runa didn't realise, but is something that NTNU does, is, so when you go to the NTNU website, right, you've got standard www.ntnu.no. When I click the English language icon in the top corner there, what does it do?
Reload it from an English source code, so it's completely written it twice essentially.
Yes. And where does that code sit?
Isn't it /en?
That would be kind of normal, yes. That's not what NTNU does.
No, it's .com.
No, it's .edu. So when I click here, it takes me to www.ntnu.edu, which is the American education site. So what I've just done is I've changed country of origin from Norway to America when I change language.
So you're forced to be an international student.
It would appear that I've now hosted through America. Right? It is still like our site, right? But the .edu ending is American.
But the flag is British, so.
Hmm?
But the flag is British.
But the flag is British. But if it was British, it would be .ac.uk, right? So New Zealand universities have .ac.nz, right? So the like NZ is in New Zealand, ac.nz is the academic domains in New Zealand. So edu is the American domains, but they never used like ac.us, though they now have US as a potential domain. So you can have US, which you couldn't used to have. But I just thought that was a really interesting way of handling language. Is that yes, you have two sites. Not only that, you're getting redirected to a whole new top level domain. Right? Is that the right way of dealing with language? Is that the way we should be dealing with language? Thoughts as programmers? You would expect it to be a bit of a pain to maintain because, as you're saying, it's now coded twice in two completely different locations, and the page is also different, and mostly in Norwegian. So when I click the English language button, it takes me to the English language location, but with mostly Norwegian text. It would appear, and this bit, so some of these are in English. All of this is in well, they're deadlines, so the text is in Norwegian. Master's taught in English is there. Where's my Norwegian button? How do I go back to Norwegian?
I think you have the back.
Press the back button. Actually, I think I disabled backspace because to automate. Oh no, it does work. So yes, but yeah, because there is this little English button, and I kind of would have expected there to be a Norwegian button somewhere here, but there's not. Oh, now there's a Norwegian button, and that takes me. At least it takes me to the same page in Norwegian and English. So now you can see the only thing changing is the .edu bit, right? So I'm .no.edu. Apart from the pages looking somewhat different, because they've obviously got different content on them, but there does seem to be some attempt, at least, to have them unified. So I assume what's happening is, if we go back, part of the reason why there isn't a Norwegian flag there is because this image is sitting on top of the Norwegian flag, which is sitting underneath it. Actually, that's a good idea. Let's go to inspect element. So is there a Norwegian flag?
I don't think it's there because the English flag scrolls down with the page, but there's nothing going to scroll down.
Yep, so we'll go back. And that should have, where is it? There should be somewhere in here it should be under the nav bar. Yep, it's under the nav bar. And language column, that looks, so it should be language instance. Okay, so this looks like, this would be, I would say, generated. I don't think a human wrote that. I think that's a generated name for something. A p_p_id_language portal let _war _language portal _instance _abcd _. So I'm assuming that this is probably something that should appear on the other page if it does have a language. So do we have a nav? We have a nav, we have breadcrumbs, we have a language column, and we have a language value. So it's there somewhere. it seems to be a span on something that is not been loaded. Language portlet URL is empty. Yeah, so it looks like they've lost their Norwegian image. That's not a great way of handling language. So yeah, you know, I just find it kind of a bit strange that, you know, for the Norwegian Technical University, that the homepage doesn't go back and forth on between English and Norwegian properly. Yeah? You're right, a better way of potentially handling the Norwegian English thing is I'm assuming that's just a simple mistake somewhere, because obviously there is a Norwegian flag in later pages that must be being filled in correctly, so hopefully it's just a slight error. But I'm still not sure at a professional level whether you should be changing your top level domain when you change language. Conceptually, for me, that feels wrong, because it feels like it should be ntnu.no, right? This www.ntnu.no is the domain, and different languages should be like /en for the English language version of all your pages, right? Or PT for Portuguese or whatever, right? So you should, like, the domain shouldn't change when you change language. That feels a bit like a hack, right? To me. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Would you, like, we could try NTNU. I actually didn't try to see what happens when I go no/en. Okay, it just takes me to the front page as normal. Yes, it does just take me to the front page as normal with /en. And if I go to, yep, no, but then I can't get back because the button's disappeared. However, I go into anything, find your master's program. Where's the button? No button. Why do I have no link? Okay, sometimes I have a language button to get back to Norwegian.
Is the element still there without the image?
Have we still got the nav bar? Still got a nav bar, and it still has a language column, and it still has the instance. It's still there. It's just an invisible button just in here with no image associated with it. Oh yeah, go to the console. If it was asked for it, oh, there's an English language icon. Google Analytics, stats, double click. They complain to us about doing tracking. That's a component. I can't place live stream. Can't see any. Can you guys see any errors yet? Purple. Another analytics tracking. No, those are all just. It's doing a lot of network stuff. There's some warnings, but well, nope. That's more analytics. It spends quite a lot of time getting a lot of stuff about you. No, I can't see any. Nope, it doesn't appear. I don't see any errors. It just seems to not ask for it. Trace use of get preferative is deprecated. Use default prevented. So it's also using deprecated code because, you know, we haven't updated our web page for a while because it's using jQuery. So console, the debugger, Yep. So, you reckon there were some 404s? Status. Well, there's some on 200s. There's some 304s. Nope, that's Mapbox. Yeah. Okay. So no, it you know, there are some broken bits on the website when dealing with language, and you know why they don't get found. Because, you know, they only check the Norwegian version, right? They don't really, the English language version isn't that big a deal. And also, you know, you don't, like, once you're in checking the English, you don't look for the how I go back and forth between Norwegian and English. So, but if I go to home, I get to NTNU, and I'm going to have to go back to NO. Now, so that's one way of dealing with language. What might be the problems of changing your top level domain?
Doesn't seem very scalable if you need more languages.
It wouldn't be scalable if you need more languages. That would definitely be true. You couldn't have things in like, well, what's the top level domain for Samisk if you're going to have a Samisk version of your website? Do the Sami have their own? I would assume not. And what if you were going to have a translation of your site into Nynorsk? Would you have a different top level domain for Norwegian for Nynorsk education?
Yeah, they can circumvent that by just saying, if you ask us something in Nynorsk, we'll reply in Nynorsk, but we write things in bookmark.
Yeah, well, you still got to have certain, like 20% of your website supposed to be in Nynorsk. So at least translated into Nynorsk. So there are some regulations, but so how do I deal with? So I also dealt with language, and we have a Unity game which has both. This is a quick little game, which is actually quite huge, really. But it has a language management. So I actually have in my scenes. I have scenes, I have my loading screen, and don't save because I didn't need to do any update. Right, so as here's a loading game, my loading screens actually come up when I hit play here. I actually haven't checked this recently, but I'm assuming it works. Takes a little bit to load. Come on. Oh, actually the stream won't be able to see this, because I haven't added it, but it should come up with two flags once it's actually parent of set to parent properly using set parent argument set to false, return local. Okay, right, that's a bit odd. It didn't load properly. Well, yes, so this has English language, right? So it's got some components in here. I also am supposed to have, and I don't know why I didn't have, if I stop that, why is my loading screen, oh right, I may have set my loading screen assets to be inspector. Where are my asset labels? Canvas, localization manager, loading panel, panel browser, come on, Portuguese button. So I do have a Portuguese button. I'm just wondering why it's not showing my Portuguese button. I will multiple events in scene. This is not supported. Ah, right. That's because I've got it currently building to Android, and so it uses the Android loading system, which makes it go crazy. Right. So what I do is in there we actually have a language handling, a language localization manager, right? And so what I use in Unity is we have a iDictionary format. And an iDictionary is a C# data structure which connects a string to a string. Right? So you can have a string, and then you have another string, and you say, hey, look this string up, and return the other string. Right? So it's this very simple lookup structure. And how I did this to get my stuff is under... I actually did it all in Sheets. So in Google Sheets, and I'll just check the stream is actually, yeah, it's seeing this. So if I go to Sheets, and I go, okay, why am I not getting... Last modified, owned by any... owned by me? Localized text, EN. That's better. Okay, come on, where is it gone? Okay, let's try. It's not that one, it must be. Where did it go? Okay. Can I find it now? It's not that old. Last modified. Owned by anyone. My files disappeared. Odd. Okay, so I'm surprised at that. I would have thought that it would have been in here. Maybe if I try Google Chrome and try going to Sheets, I can get a better... But what I do is I've used Google Sheets, and I've used a script in Google Sheets to generate a JSON file, and then I use a load JSON in Unity to load in my different it should be that.
Check the history of that file.
Maybe it's internationalization. Maybe I called it language. Oh. Okay. This is very strange.
Try finding the URL in the Unity project.
Well, so in the Unity project, I actually
language.
in the Unity project, I actually export the JSON file, and then I import the JSON file directly in as a load JSON, which is why it comes in as separately. It comes in, and I have to export from Sheets each file for each language. PT. No, this is, sorry, I had been using it recently and I'm not sure where it's disappeared to. But what it is I was using a a script that I had edited in Google Sheets, right? So have you guys ever used the Google script and edited Google Sheets scripts? Nope. So this can be quite useful if you look at Google Sheets. Actually, if I go back to Firefox so that these guys can see it. So so one of the challenges is, like, you know, how do you deal with all of your additional letters? How do you deal with different languages? How do you deal with different words? So one simple approach, and the approach that we're using in here in our Unity program, was to connect a simple phrase in Unity, in the code, to a long string. Now there's two ways of doing this. One is you use a short kind of indication of what the word is. Like, you could have welcome and it could say, hello, welcome to our program, in English. And you'd have welcome and whatever Norwegian for welcome to the program is. Velkommen til data sheet. No, that's just a form. Program. It's the same, really. Welcome to, yeah, welcome to program. So you could have those two different strings, and you'd have, like, welcome would be your default text, right? And then it would convert it depending on whether you're at English or Norwegian, right? So that's one approach, is you use your dictionary with a short string, and then you have a long word. Another approach is you put your whole English phrase as your key, right? Which means you use the default English hello, or welcome, as this lookup, and then every time you refer to it, you go, what's the current language version of this string? Right? Now, if it doesn't find anything, what you can do is you keep using that string. Right? Because that would be you defaulting to English. Right? So one of the approaches is to, like, so you got two, one of the approaches is to just say, well, let's default to English. If we have no other solution, let's just leave the English there and hope the person knows enough English to work out what's going wrong. Right? That has some advantages, that you get to, you know, have the English language at least everywhere, rather than, you know, having welcome v2 as the string and them going, I wonder what welcome v2 was, or localization pk3x5. It's going, I wonder what that string would have said if it was there. Okay? So if you always use the English, at least you get the English. The problem with that is that when you're playtesting, you might not notice that you've got the English, because your brain will read it, accept that it's communication from the program to you that's appropriate, and just move on, and not realize that, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be checking the Norwegian version and I just got some English text. Alright, so sometimes having it flag up with the this is placeholder replace me kind of warning could be quite useful, because then you know you have to replace everything, and any time the, you know, welcome string XXX it comes up with X on the end of all of these template strings, if that comes up, you know you have to replace it. Right? So you've kind of got either option. We started this program doing both. Well, we started the program with the long version of having the full English language. The problem came when we started having very, very, very long language strings, right? Where I want a massive paragraph, and it's kind of, this is really tight. Like, you have this as my indicator string is a problem, right? So I wanted to have a short thing that I could just use and then just look that up, right? And so you get, so we worked through that, and eventually I decided, well, for some I will use the full length, right, because they were relatively short, and for some I'll just have the an actual short string and then get my external to translate the long strings. Okay? And so I created, and I can't find it right now, but I created a spreadsheet that has the English language and the Norwegian language together. No, it actually was, for this particular project, it was English language and Portuguese, because we were working with the Portuguese. Let's see, what would be welcome? See, are there any sheets that have the word welcome in them? Or translation. Did I call it translation? Stupid. See, non-professional. I should have had the word localization or internationalization instead of translation. Sorry. That's my own stupid fault for not remembering what I did. Okay, so in this file format, what I've done is I've got a key, the English and the Portuguese, and you can see here I've got instructions to my external Hugo, who is editing the Portuguese, saying, Hugo, edit this column. So that was Hugo's job. And so this is the Portuguese. Some of you might speak Portuguese, and we have a check that this is right. So as you can see here, as I said, attend, that's good. Available, that was easy. Breakup, yep, that's fine. City in chaos, no longer safe. And that's just now shortened to chaos. Choose a level thing. Citizen underscore reports. Citizen reports, this tells me where I got that right. And so I have one long one down here where I get this one, which is, in your small city some citizens are afraid, how can you make them feel safer? Question mark is the key, and the English is the copy, and that's the Portuguese. I kind of got sick of doing that, and so I now have L3 desk and L3 title, because I started saying, well, I want, this is actually the level 3 description and the level 3 title, so that's the level 3 description, that's the level 3 title. So instead of having to have it copied as the key here, I'll just have the key being shorter, and I'll rely on him being able to see the English. So rather than just give him the key and tell him to write the Norwegian, the language version, I've given him the English and the Portuguese. Now what I've done is, so under a locked sheet of English, I then do a lookup that generates the from the combined sheet the B column, right? So this now gives me a key and value pair, and I do the same for the Portuguese, which now gives me a key value pair for all of those. And this I had was the Google Translate version of my key language pair, just to see, like, because first I did was, before he did anything, I made myself a Portuguese language translation, which at least had, and as you can see in Google Translate, in Google Sheets, you can use Google Translate the column and EN to PT, so you can auto translate in Google Sheets. So it gives you at least a default that will be close to right, but still probably wrong, but closer. So I had that just to check that I could use the imports. And then in the export JSON, I had an add-on here, which is I downloaded a script and add it in the script engine. So you can see I also have it like LaTeX kit, which allows me to export LaTeX tables from Google Sheets, which can be quite useful, but I can manage the add-on and export sheet data, and rate add-on. Okay, so manage. Okay, nope. If I go to Tools, Script Editor, I should be able to find the script. So this is the script for that one-line, multi-line, pretty JavaScript, Python. This is my export JSON for all sheets, or export JSON for this sheet. And what that's given me in this project by having and including that script is this button for export JSON, and I can export for this sheet, and it runs the script and creates a JSON file that has items and then an array of key value pairs. Right? Now, when I copy that, I can copy that, or I can save it. I copy and paste that in. If I paste that directly into Visual Studio, it screws up all of the acutes and all of the non-ASCII characters, right? And just gets them wrong. So I can't copy from here directly into Visual Studio, into a file in Visual Studio. So I actually have to use, the program I use is EditPad Pro, but you can also, I think Notepad++ also allows you to maintain formatting, right? And so that the trick is to convince your programs to keep the Unicode formatting that you've got with your additional characters, right? Both in Portuguese and in Norwegian. And so when I save the file, I have to actually save it through EditPad Pro rather than save it through Visual Studio. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to go to there and go all and copy and paste. And so that gives me here, and then I can text file encoding. I can then save that, and I can save it with all of these acutes in it, and so I can go file, save as, and I can save it to the appropriate .json format. Right? So that's how I was dealing with my localization. Once you've got a JSON format, you can then look at various JSON readers. The reason I chose JSON was, even though I'm using C#, is because there are some, we had a native JSON reader. We were using JSON for our data files. So I thought, well, I've got a JSON reader already. I might as well just use it for the language localization stuff, the translation material. Having got the spreadsheet up, I can hand the spreadsheet, I can use the Google Sheet thing, say, hey, can you translate this for me? I lock all the columns, but the one he's allowed to edit. He can edit that column, and he can see the English version and his version to compare them. I can then just go straight to the paired key value, pull that all out, and upload the lot. Right? So that's how I did it, and like, I have to be careful because you will screw up. Someone will try and destroy all of your acutes somewhere along the path. Okay, so I've now got 3 o'clock, so I've got to run and pick up my children because I'm also picking up another child that's having a sleepover tonight. So I can't be too late, or else, you know, they'll get worried. But so would you like me to share that translation file with you? Because I could share that link to you, and you guys could have a look at it and have a look at the script that I've got on there. I actually grabbed that script off a web page that was sharing it as open access, but I had to edit it to work with my importer. So, but you can have a look at how those Google Sheets things work, if that's interesting to you. Are any of you doing that in Norwegian and English? You are doing Norwegian and English? How are you managing your Norwegian English? You're using the Android's localization _en?
Well, we're doing it in React Native, and it's pretty simple, so it's just an additional package that just does basically a
Yes, so they're getting better at that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to have to... But any questions?